Hey, friends! Just so you know, we enjoy the swear word and we rely on good old fashioned humor to get through some seriously dark subject matter. At no time do we intend any disrespect toward the victims or families of the victims in the cases we cover. Also, be sure to listen to the end for a few palate cleansing bloopers to reset your mindset. And with that, we thank you for listening and we hope you enjoy.
Hey friends, welcome to Crime Will Tell. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Carrie.
How you doing?
I'm darn good.
How's beautiful San Jose, California?
It's very good. Travels today were great.
Nice.
Yeah,
Do you have a drink in your hotel room?
I do. I do. I went down to the lobby and I perused their massive selection, and I'm drinking Michelob Ultra.
Okay. Are you
So,
really amped about that?
I mean, I like Michelob Ultra. I like it because it's like low carbs and low calories.
Truth.
What are you drinking?
I am drinking a new bourbon that I discovered. I believe John E. Fitzgerald is the company, but the bourbon is called Larceny, which
Shut up.
I thought was perfect for a crime show. And it's actually quite fucking tasty.
Ooh, and it's a small batch too.
I did add a little ginger ale just because I
Yeah.
like a little skew to ginger ale every once in a while.
Yeah, but it was just like a bloop.
Like a baby pool splash. Nothing crazy.
Well, cheers, my friend.
Cheers to you. Clink.
Clink.
Okay. Are you ready for this one?
I am. Lay it on me.
Okay. So this episode is about the abduction and murder of Kelsey Smith. This case was suggested by Blaine McQuaid Pestle, who has been a huge supporter of Crime Will Tell. And I also want to give a quick shout out, not only to her, but to her sister Brooke, who was a friend of mine that I grew up with. And she ended up telling Blaine about the podcast. She became a huge fan. And so I just wanted to include both of them and say, holla, ladies.
That is one of the best names. Blaine. That's a fucking slamming name. Thank you, Blaine and Brooke.
Blaine had reached out and asked us to cover this case because she actually went to high school with Kelsey, the victim in this case.
Oh, really?
And they were in their high school's choir together. She ended up sending some really great details, not only about Kelsey, but gave us a little bit of an idea of what things were like in that community at the time when this case happened. So, Kelsey Ann Smith was born on May 3rd, 1989, in Overland Park, Kansas, a suburb of Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. It's all one giant fucking thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Her parents are Greg and Missy, and she was the third of 5 children. So she had
Holy
3
shit.
sisters, Stephanie, who actually went by Stevie,
Oh, that's cute.
Lindsay, and Dakota, who went by Cody, and then they had a brother, Zach.
And I love these names.
So Kelsey was super involved in 1,000 activities. She was doing everything. She was a talented artist who loved drawing. She, like I'd mentioned before, sang in the high school choir. She acted in school plays. She ran on the track team. But her heart and soul was being in her high school's marching band as a section leader. She loved it and she wanted to continue with the marching band through college as well.
That's really cool. I was in my high school's marching band solely for the amazing uniform,
And what did you play?
the flute.
I fucking was gonna guess. And now that you're grown up, apparently you play the skin flute quite well. That's just the word on the street.
Moving on. You bitch.
So Kelsey graduated from Shawnee Mission West High School on May 24th of 2007, and she was going to attend college at Kansas State University, which is in Manhattan, Kansas. which is roughly like 2 hours from her hometown of Overland Park. And they're known for their marching band.
Which is probably why she wanted to go there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why she was like, yep, I'm going and I'm going to fucking be in the marching band all through college too.
So
So
these are
she
the
was
marching
super
bands
excited
that you see on the field during like the college football games and stuff like that.
that are doing like the formations and doing all the cool
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
So she was like super excited to be a part of that. And she had plans of becoming a veterinarian. So she was going to major in pre-veterinary medicine at K-State, Kansas State. Blaine, who again suggested the episode, said that Kelsey was always so sweet, was just super involved in everything, and overall was just an absolute ray of sunshine. Kelsey was obviously going to just go on to do really big things. However, around 6:30 in the evening on Saturday, June 2nd of 2007, so literally less than 2 weeks after this girl graduated from high school, the excitement for her future going to college was just at an all-time high. Kelsey left her house and she went to a Target store in Overland Park where she lived because she wanted to get a gift for her boyfriend, John Beyer. I don't know if it's Beyer Smith or Beer Smith. John. We're going to go with John. She wanted to go get her boyfriend, John, a gift for their 6-month anniversary, which is just a big old slice of precious pie because they were going to be going out on a date that night to celebrate. And she wanted to just run out real quick and grab a gift before John came to pick her up to celebrate, which again just showed how just thoughtful and sweet she was. So while at Target, Kelsey ended up calling her mother because she had some sort of question about the gift
Sure.
that she was buying.
Because she's 17 years old and you call your mom.
Yeah, it's like, where's the gift wrap? What do I wrap this in? I don't know. Where do I find this? And moms are always just like, back left corner, whatever. So she said she was, just going to grab the last few things that she needed for the gift, and then she was going to head back home to get ready for her date. However, her family was started to get worried because she didn't come home when they were expecting her. The store was literally like an 8-minute drive or something from their house. So they're like, as time just crept on that evening, they're like, where the fuck is Kelsey? And that concern grew even more when her boyfriend John showed up at their house at 7:30 to pick up Kelsey for their date. So they're all like, have you talked to Kelsey? Have you? And so John and her family both started calling and texting her, but they weren't getting any response. And if you hear my dog barking in the background, I apologize. You should probably see somebody walking. Anyway, it was not like Kelsey to not respond to texts or phone calls, or at least let them know where she was going to be, if she was going to be a little bit late, whatever. So it was really alarming to them when she wasn't responding to John or her family at all. So her boyfriend John and her sister Lindsay ended up driving to the Target to see if they could try and find her, because she had an older car. So they were thinking maybe that she had car issues and maybe her phone had died and she was just stranded and pissed off, because shit like that happens. But she was nowhere to be found and her car wasn't in the store's parking lot. So they're like, what the fuck?
And this is what we do, right? We rationalize away uncharacteristic behavior, right?
Right.
I mean, it's so surreal to think that something very bad could have happened to a loved one. Maybe her phone died. Maybe it was a calamity of a whole bunch of things that happened at once. And
Clearly she's probably at Target and we just need to
yeah,
go get her. No big deal.
she's going to be so happy to see us pull in,
Right.
right? That's what we're
Exactly.
thinking. Yeah.
So Kelsey's dad, Greg, was a police officer.
Oh.
So he immediately started making phone calls to police dispatch to see if there had been an accident reported, or if maybe Kelsey had been pulled over for some reason, just trying anything to figure out where she might be. But there were no incidents that had been reported with her name. So they're like, fuck.
So when they went to Target, they did not find her car in the parking lot.
No, her car was nowhere in the Target parking lot. So Kelsey's family and John, they started driving around Overland Park, just trying to see if they could spot her, if her car broke down, whatever it might have been. And again, John and Kelsey's sister Lindsay, they were like, we're gonna go back to Target. double check, make sure we can't find her at Target. And so kind of just to set up the area, the Target store was in an area near Oak Park Mall in Overland Park. So this is a huge mall. The Target's right next to the mall. So there's tons of stores and restaurants. It's a really busy area.
Okay.
So they're like, she's not at Target. Let's just maybe drive around the mall parking lot. And at around 11 o'clock that night, they actually found Kelsey's car parked outside of the Macy's at the end of the mall.
Mm.
There were no signs of Kelsey, and they look inside, and the items that she'd purchased at Target, her purse, her wallet, everything was inside the vehicle.
Did they pop the trunk?
No, I don't think so. They just were like, back away. They notified police and
Mm.
said, we found her
Okay.
car. And they immediately treated her vehicle like a crime scene. They began processing the vehicle, trying to obtain any forensic evidence just in case Kelsey's disappearance ended up being linked to some sort
Yeah.
of crime. And this quick response by investigators was absolutely incredible because that just doesn't happen. In most cases, there's typically well, they probably ran away or just maybe met up with some friends. Like there's always some delay by law enforcement when somebody goes missing. But I'm assuming because Kelsey's father was a police officer, that there was a sense of urgency,
Yeah.
just wanting to take care of one of their fellow officers and his family. So that really worked in their favor in this case, but it's rare, unfortunately. So her family actually also started contacting her cell phone company, trying to get the location of her phone because they're like, if we can find her phone, that's like the link to her that we can't find. But they wouldn't release any information due to privacy laws in Kansas. Plus, we also all know how these companies work. You get bounced around from recordings and prompts to people that can't help you, so they send you to another department or whatever. And the people that seem to maybe help were like, we can't because of these laws, whatever. So they didn't get anywhere. And I can't imagine how frustrating that would be when you're trying to find your missing kid.
I'm sure every second feels like an hour, and the sense of urgency is off the fucking charts.
Yeah. So police knew from Kelsey's family that she'd been to Target, but of course the store had closed by the time her car was found. So they had to wait until the next day to be able to get access to the
Ah.
store's security footage, which sucks. So that night, police interviewed Kelsey's family and her boyfriend John because they typically start with the victim and work their way out, start with their inner circle. And of course, they were all cleared of any involvement. So they're like, okay, we're good. Now we got to start looking elsewhere. So police started contacting media outlets the following morning with Kelsey's photo and a description of, her description. And her case ended up getting national attention. Kelsey's family made missing person flyers with Kelsey's picture and information about her. Her family and friends just absolutely were not fucking around, and they acted so quickly. They passed out these flyers and they were still just searching for Kelsey around the area. They contacted the media, they set up interviews with news stations. They did absolutely everything that they could to get the word out quickly that she was missing. So Kelsey had made such an impact on so many people, and those people showed up to help her family, to support them, to help search for her, and do whatever they could to assist. And these supporters became known as Kelsey's Army. So Blaine, who again suggested this episode, said that she and other classmates were part of search parties and that they all had shirts that said Kelsey's Army on them.
That's really cool.
So the day after Kelsey went missing, police were able to access the security camera footage from Target. And fortunately, there were security cameras all over the inside of the store, like 40 of them.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And they also had, cameras on the outside and the parking lot area. So Kelsey's time in the store was all captured on camera, which provided solid evidence for the investigators, which is great. And so there were about 10 police officers that were designated to just literally pore over the footage from all of the security cameras. They were trying to break down all of her movements that night and just watch for the people around her and see what the fuck happened. So when they started watching the footage, they could see Kelsey park her car in the store's parking lot at 6:54 p.m. She then walks into the store, and about a minute later, a 1970s Chevy pickup rolls into the same lot, I think in the same row, parking near Kelsey's vehicle. A young man who was wearing a white shirt and dark shorts can be seen getting out of that truck, and he also just walks into the Target. The cameras show Kelsey walking around the store, making the phone call to her mother. Like, so all like they're watching everything happen that they knew, like her
This is
family had
great.
said. Yeah. So and then she pays for the gifts and she leaves the store at 7:07 p.m.
She was not in there long.
No, initially there was nothing that jumped out at them. So investigators pretty much went frame by frame on all these different cameras, trying to watch where Kelsey was in the store and if there were any creepers lurking around. And eventually, the officers notice that as Kelsey's moving through the store shopping, the guy seen getting out of the truck starts following her around the store. Totally
Oh,
unbeknownst to Kelsey. She's oblivious, but it just at a certain point, I think like an officer was like, "Wait, is that guy?" Like they could kind of see when he noticed her, and as she moved through the store, he was just kind of behind her.
oh, that is
So once
fucking
they made that
creepy.
connection, they're like, "Holy shit." So she'd been in the store by the time she walked in, by the time she checked out, less than 15 minutes,
Hmm.
which is like a record Target run time.
I don't think I've ever done that.
I am impressed. So but this all just happened very quickly. So the footage from the parking lot wasn't like the best quality. It was really grainy, but police were able to get a really good sense of what happened that night. So when they went over the footage from the parking lot, Kelsey can be seen walking to her car, which was a two-door 1987 Buick Regal. She put the purchases from Target in the passenger seat of the car. She walks around to the driver's side, and a man, which was more kind of a blur, but police were able to see something rush towards Kelsey, push her into her own car, and then the car just drives off and just disappears out of sight of the cameras.
Presumably with the man in the car too?
Right. At first, they watched it and they didn't see anything, but then as they watched closer, they're like, "Oh shit, did you see that?" Like as they're
Like a
picking apart,
flash.
like yeah, it was just like this quick motion. Something came in. You can see her like getting pushed into the car. Like it's grainy as fuck.
She was completely taken off guard. She had no idea.
Yeah.
Can't they send this shit to NASA or something to clean it up?
I don't know. So this, I mean, just so within like 10 seconds, this all happened, which is just craziness. So police kind of put those pieces together and they were like, somebody rushed her, shoved her into the car. She was abducted. So after being analyzed even more, it appeared that the same man who approached her in the parking lot was the creepy fucker who'd gotten out of the 1970s Chevy truck that had pulled in. Police noticed that during Kelsey's time at the Target, the only person that she stopped and spoke to was actually the employee who checked her out. It's not like she stopped and spoke with anybody or seemed to know anyone. So it was really likely, to them at least, that she didn't know the turd who abducted her. What makes this case so unique is that she was abducted by a stranger in a busy parking lot in broad daylight.
That's so I mean, how many times have you gone into the Target locally and you're not I'm thinking about all the times that I haven't been aware or haven't been paying attention if I'm being followed or something. That's just very, very disconcerting.
Yeah, when you're taking the time to put stuff in your trunk or put stuff in
Oh
the
my
back
God.
seat or stop to check a text or something and you're just
Like, I keep my head on a swivel everywhere in public, except for like when I'm in a store.
exactly.
And see, this just goes to show this is a perfect example that, especially as women, you can never let your guard down.
Right.
Oh my
It can
God.
happen
And she had
anywhere.
no idea. He bum rushed her.
No.
Oh.
She
Can
didn't
you
know
imagine
that.
the fear that
No.
shot through her when she fucking figured out, like, 5 seconds later, holy
Yeah.
shit, I'm being abducted in my own car. I'm being carjacked.
So this was just like a goddamn nightmare. And Blaine, who suggested the case,
God, I love that name.
yeah, she actually worked at a shoe carnival store.
A shoe carnival?
Yeah, you've never heard of a shoe carnival?
What the hell is a shoe carnival?
It's
No,
a
I've never
s-
heard of
it's
a
a
shoe
it's
carnival.
a big chain. Maybe they're not
It
up here,
sounds
but
amazing. We need to lobby to get a shoe carnival in our city.
right? But so Blaine worked at one of those literally just across the street from the mall where this all
Where the
happened.
Target
And
was, yeah.
yeah, and so she remembers at this time that her boss would walk her out to her car when leaving work because I mean everybody was just on high alert and especially young women. Nobody knew at this time what was going on. They were all scared to death.
Wow.
And I mean, at this point, she's going to work. She knows that one of her classmates and choir mates was like,
Abducted in broad daylight. She was gone and nobody knew where she was.
yeah. So everybody's like just in panic mode, which again is like, is really cool to kind of get Blaine's take on this. Like, just
Yeah.
as another high schooler at that time, like what was going on in their community.
Yeah, because there's two threads, right? There's what's going on with the immediate family and friends, and then how is it impacting the community?
Right. And the other parents that are like, look, when you get off fucking work, you do not walk to your car by yourself. Scary shit.
You hold your keys in a certain way in your hands. You walk around your car. You're always looking behind you. Yeah.
You get in as fast as you can and you lock that door the second you get in. Don't fuck around and check your phone. You get out of there.
Yeah.
So the footage from the mall parking lot cameras, which again was near the Target, was also reviewed. And at 9:17 that night, Kelsey's car actually comes back into that area and parks in the mall parking lot. So this is the same night that she went missing, like 2 hours after she was taken from the Target.
Near the Target or in a different area?
Yeah, so this was in like the mall parking lot
Okay.
outside of the Macy's.
Right. Okay. And that's when then they found her car parked by Macy's.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
and they knew which like spot the car was found in, so it made it a lot easier to go back
Mm-hmm,
and watch the
mm-hmm.
footage because they're like, when did this
When
car
did this
like
happen?
yeah, when
Yeah.
did her car show up? Who the fuck was driving it? So it was pretty shitty quality and they weren't able to make out like a ton of details, but someone in a white shirt can be seen parking the car, getting out, and then when they go back and look at the Target footage, a few minutes later, back in the Target parking lot, someone can be seen getting in that 1970s Chevy truck and driving off.
The same guy that they found that parked during the day or that early evening
Right, and
and
they'd
was like creeping
seen
on her in the store. Okay.
exactly. Police are like, it's pretty fucking clear that this dude abducted Kelsey in her vehicle, took her somewhere, drove her car to the mall parking lot, parked it, and then walked back to his truck in the Target parking lot and left in his own vehicle. Fortunately, though, police were able to get some pretty clear photos of the suspect inside the store, and they were sent out to media outlets along with the description of the truck that they had seen
Okay.
in the parking lot. The photos of the suspect and the photos and the description of the vehicle were shown to Kelsey's family, and none of them knew who he was. So they're like, we have no clue who this fucking guy was. And no one that was in Target that day, no one from the parking lot came forward saying that they witnessed her being abducted or saw anything strange. So police were just kind of like, fuck, they weren't getting there were leads coming in, but none of them really went anywhere. It was
Yeah, they
just
weren't getting traction.
yeah. Until 4 days after Kelsey went missing, a couple was watching TV and they see a photo of the suspect on the news and they kind of joke with each other. They're like, that kind of looks like our neighbor Jack. They're laughing about it because the similarities are there, but
Who knows? It's grainy. Like,
yeah,
you don't
there's
really
there's
know.
no way that their neighbor Jack would be the suspect in a kidnapping.
No way.
The Jack that they know is married, has a 4-year-old son, and is well liked by, this couple and the other neighbors in their neighborhood.
He mows his lawn every Saturday. Like, Jack's not going to go around abducting young women.
Yeah, he's helping neighbors with their vehicles and whatever. Like, it's just fucking, it just looks like Jack. Ha ha ha. But then they see the description of the truck linked to the suspect, and they're like, fuck.
Oh, it was Jack? Their neighbor Jack that they know?
That looks just like Jack. That's Jack's truck. That's got to be Jack. So they did the right thing and they immediately contacted police and they're like, look, we're watching the news and we think that it's our fucking neighbor.
Could you imagine?
No, cannot.
Like putting the pieces together and being like, holy shit. It's got to be surreal.
Hmm. Police, of course, acted really quickly on this tip and they arrived at Jack's house that same day. And while they're there, they found Jack and his wife and their 4-year-old son loading up their vehicle to go on vacation. That's not sus as shit. Nope. And they discovered that Jack is actually 26-year-old Edwin Roy Hall. Jack is a nickname and the name that he prefers to go by, but his name is Edwin Roy Hall. Jack is certainly better than Ed Roy, but whatever. He was married to his wife, Aletha.
What is her name?
What you want? Aletha. It's with an L.
Not Alicia, Aletha.
Aletha.
I actually kind of like that, but it makes me feel like I'm talking with a lisp. Like Aletha.
Yeah. Hey, knock knock.
Who's there?
Panther.
Panther who?
Panther, no pants. I'm going swimming.
That is a fucking dad joke.
Actually, my nephew, who's like 19 now, told me that joke when he was like 2 or 3, and I couldn't understand what the fuck he was saying. And it's been my favorite joke ever since.
That's a good one.
So they got married when he was 19.
Wow, real's young.
And they had a 4-year-old son. Police were like, yeah, you're not going to Branson or wherever the fuck you were headed. You're going to jail, Jackalope. And
So
we
do
have
they
some
know if this was a
questions for you.
pre-scheduled vacation or was he just like off the cuff?
I think it was pretty sus. Because I mean, at this point, like his pictures all over the goddamn place.
And now they're jetting. Okay.
And as police are there, they're like, this motherfucker looks just like the guy in the surveillance footage. Like, this has to be our dude.
He's got the truck too.
Yeah. And when neighbors were interviewed, they all had good things to say about Hall, which is how I'm going to refer to him from now on. I'm not going to call him Jack or Ed Roy or whatever. Like, just, we're going to go with Hall.
Okay.
So they all said that he was friendly and helpful and seemed to be a really good dad, that his son was usually with him in the truck. Like when they'd see him drive by, that he seemed to be like a really good, involved dad. The same day that he was taken in, police finally started getting information from the cell phone company about Kelsey's phone.
Oh, so they did release it.
Yeah, but it was like 4 days after she was
They probably
missing.
had to get a court order and all that.
Yeah, it was just a goddamn mess. And the delay in getting the cell location released really kind of stalled the investigation because they're like, if we can find her phone, we can maybe find her, which I'm sure was absolutely frustrating to her family and investigators. But police learned that her phone had last pinged off a particular cell phone tower days earlier. So they quickly started searches in that location, which was about like 20 miles east of where that target was. It was a wooded area near Longview Lake, which was in Grandview, Missouri. And Kelsey's army showed the fuck up for these searches. There was an endless supply of people that were available to do whatever was needed to find Kelsey.
So I have a question. When her family found her car parked by the Macy's,
Mm-hmm.
they saw that her purse and her purchases from Target were inside the car, and her wallet and everything. And then they didn't touch it, and they called the police, and the police processed the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that they believed that her cell phone must have been with her because they didn't find it in the car,
Right.
and that's why they were really eager to get the okay, to get
Correct.
the
Like
pings.
that was like the one thing that they're like,
Where's her
that's the
cell
one
phone?
thing that's besides her, that's what's missing. She has
Okay.
it with her. If we can find it, we can find her. But unfortunately, Kelsey's body was found early that same afternoon, literally 45 minutes after they started searching that area. But she was found nude and she had a belt around her neck.
Jesus.
Her body was in kind of described as like a depression, like a lower part of the ground, and she had been covered with sticks and branches. And they found her shirt near her body, which had bleach stains all over it. An autopsy later revealed that she had been raped and sodomized
Oh my God.
and strangled with her own belt. The medical examiner also found multiple defensive wounds on Kelsey's body. And Hall, whenever investigators were interviewing him, also had wounds on him. So she fought like fucking hell.
She went down fighting.
So a couple from that area ended up coming forward and said that 2 days after Kelsey went missing, they'd been walking in that area around Longview Lake, and they'd seen a man just kind of randomly walk out of the woods carrying a duffel bag. And he was walking towards a truck which fit the same description as the one that had been found in the or had been seen in the Target parking lot.
And this was a couple days after she went missing?
Like after her body had been found, they were like, "We remember like 2 days ago we saw a guy." And they also said that they could see a bunch of sticks in the back of his truck, like in the bed of this truck. So he had obviously gone back to Kelsey's body to not only probably put bleach on her clothing to try and destroy any forensic evidence, but also put like sticks and stuff over her body to try and conceal her.
Oh my God.
So police they kind of wanted to backtrack and figure out Hall's movements starting the day that Kelsey disappeared. And they learned that around 5 o'clock the day that she went missing, he ate at a Mexican restaurant. I believe it was an On the Border restaurant. I don't know if those still exist, but he ended up leaving the restaurant without paying for his meal. Dick.
Dined and dashed.
Yeah. So then he went to a Dillard's department store where he later stated that he was looking for a gift for his wife, but he also had no money on him. Thus the dining and dashing, like you said. So it's unclear. Like, I don't know if he was planning on stealing something or just a dumb fucking liar.
He wasn't going there to get a gift for his wife. He was trolling. He was trying to find a victim.
Yeah. So he then wandered his broke ass over the Target around 7 o'clock, where he spotted Kelsey and started tailing her around the store.
Oh my God.
So while he was being interviewed by police, Hall totally claimed his innocence and he was being super cooperative. He gave DNA samples and fingerprints, just anything that he could do to help eliminate himself as a suspect. And when he was shown the Target surveillance footage, he was like, "Look, I was at Target and I did leave my truck in the parking lot, but I had nothing to do with her disappearance. So, like, where the fuck did you go, dummy?"
Except he's seen on video
Exactly.
parking her car at Macy's and then walking back to his truck.
So while he's being held in jail, he was like talking to reporters and claiming that he wasn't involved with the kidnapping and murder. And through all of this, his wife Aletha stood by his side and she was also proclaiming his innocence. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, he initially pled not guilty to the charges against him.
Meanwhile, his wife is losing her goddamn mind.
Aletha's losing it. Yeah. But on July 23rd of 2008, Hall ended up changing his plea to guilty in an agreement so he could avoid the death penalty, which it always just fucking throws me when murderers are so worried about the death penalty and they're okay with taking another life. It just pisses me off. Anyway, his lawyer at that time had actually been fighting to get a change of venue for the trial because there'd been so much coverage of the case. So it was really surprising to everyone when he ended up changing his plea.
Did he give a full confession?
Yeah, he ended up giving a lot of details. And I mean, it did save the family from having to go through a full trial. But this skid mark ended up pleading guilty to, to kidnapping, sodomizing, raping, and murdering Kelsey Smith.
Was this his first murder?
Yes. So, due to the plea deal, Hall ended up giving investigators additional details about what had happened that day. So, he said that he was standing by the jewelry counter in Target, again, probably perusing shit for his wife, whatever. And he saw Kelsey walk by and said that he first noticed her legs.
Ew.
Oh, wait. So he said he started following her around the store. And when he saw her face, he assumed that she was about 12 years old. Double ew. We'll touch more on that in a sec. And he also said that he had a gun that he used to basically force her into the car.
I was wondering about that.
I think he like held it against her while they were driving till they got to wherever they were going.
Did he make her drive or did he drive?
I think he drove. I think he like pushed
Like
her
shoved
into
her
the
into the
passenger
passenger
seat.
seat?
Yeah, and then he drove, but like put a gun against her. The week of Kelsey's murder, Hall had been charged with 2 counts of aggravated indecent liberties with a child because this turd basket had sex on multiple occasions with a 14-year-old girl when he was 23.
What?
Sexual encounters had happened 3 years before Kelsey was murdered, but the charges were being brought against him like 3 years later, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but who the fuck was this 14-year-old girl? And he was married and he had a 1-year-old.
Yeah. And I think he referred to this as like a sexual relationship, but let's be fucking real. He was sexually assaulting a child.
Yeah, he was being a fucking pedophile predator. So he's a pedophile because he thought Kelsey was 12.
Yeah, so he's disgusting. And so the girl that he had assaulted, I think it must have been like a family friend or something.
Oh my.
But the last time he'd seen the girl, a family member of hers had like given him a well-deserved knuckle sandwich. That's a punch to the face if you're not familiar with this deli treat. He got the shit kicked out of him. And thankfully, after that, he chose to kind of end things and not be around her anymore.
Oh my god.
I don't know how long it had been going on, but it was too many fucking times. So, Mr. Nice Guy, who everybody has great things to say about him and his wife supports him, like the facade was starting to crumble. So they start digging into his past a little bit, and they learn that when Hall was 7 years old, he was adopted by Dawn and Carol Hall. Now, he'd been put into foster care when he was 6 years old because he had been sexually abused by his uncle. Like, that is an awful start to
Nature
life.
and nurture.
But the Halls, so again, Dawn and Carol, really wanted to provide a safe and stable home for him and their 3 other children. So they had 3 kids and they brought Holland to their house.
So he had a loving family, he had siblings, he was given every
Exactly.
opportunity.
But when he was like this, so this would have been like 1994, things kind of took a turn. He would have been about 12. And he stole his dad's van. And a year after that, he stole a tape recorder and like $25. Nothing major, but like it just, he was starting to kind of show some shitty behavior and stealing and just, being kind of a dick. So for these offenses, he was placed under supervision, which basically just meant that he had to behave, stay out of trouble, and go to school. It was like they were really monitoring
Like, do what you're supposed to fucking do.
Yeah, go to school, do your shit, behave, all's good.
Oh my god.
But in 1996, he threatened his sister with a knife.
So he was 14 then.
Yes. He pleaded no contest, but because of this, he ended up having to be removed from the Hall's
Yeah.
home, and he was placed into juvenile correctional facilities. I mean, basically for the safety of the family and the other kids
Yeah.
in the house. Like, they were
Yeah.
scared to death. So, unfortunately, I mean, he was in different facilities over the next 4 years until he aged out. So in 1999, he was officially discharged, like, from the state's custody. The following year, he got married to his wife, Aletha.
Okay, so he was basically discharged out into the world with absolutely no tools and
Right.
resources.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be surprised that this fucking happened.
No, I mean,
Or
this
and who was
totally
let down?
fucking tracks.
This 14-year-old that he fucking sexually assaulted and Kelsey. These are the people that
Yeah.
is the wreckage in the wake of improper maintenance and
Oh, for sure.
okay.
Oh, and there's more. So in 2002, Hall and his parents were sued by a man who said that Hall had hit him in the head with a baseball bat in 1995. So, I mean, this was obviously years later that he was sued. But because of that blow to his head, he'd suffered from chronic headaches. And at that time in 1995, Hall would have been like 13 and the victim was 11.
Oh my god.
He beat him in the head with a baseball bat.
That can fuck you up.
Yeah, and so he, like, as he grew, just had these chronic headaches and ended
Yeah.
up suing for the damage that was done to him as a child. But the assault charges ended up being dismissed because they ended up settling out of
Out of
court.
court.
Also, after he had been arrested for Kelsey's murder and his face was plastered all over the goddamn place, a woman ended up coming forward and said that Hall was the man who had harassed her only 6 weeks before. She said that she was walking, like, just out for a walk when she heard someone start yelling at her, and she's like, "What the fuck?" So she turned and she had seen a man who she ended up recognizing as Hall run up to her, and he said he just wanted to tell her that she had a nice butt. Ew. Right?
That is so not like
Yeah. Like, what? So then he started following her as she was
oh.
walking.
So she turned and started walking and he just started following her?
Yeah, but he would
He's
kind
so
of like,
fucking creepy and dangerous.
yeah, like just lurking around near her and like even asked at one point, like, "Am I bothering you?"
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, very much
And
so.
she was like totally skeeved out and uncomfortable, but she didn't really, she was like, "I don't know if that warrants me."
Yeah, she didn't want to provoke him. She didn't want to act like she was being dramatic and
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's
I
like she's like,
get it.
"What do I really report that as?" It was like maybe harassment, but like he ended
And
up going away,
and
whatever.
this is the problem with our system because the police, their hands are tied. Someone has to be harmed or killed for something to happen. So think about domestic violence or whatever. If somebody's being threatened, but they haven't actually been harmed, they can call the police and the police are going to be like, I can't do anything. I have no legal jurisdiction over this because
Right.
he or she hasn't actually hurt you. When they hurt you, call me back and then I can do something about it. Yeah.
When you're dead, give us a
And
call.
that's a bit of a loophole, I think, in our judicial system.
Yeah. So just to have a little bit more confirmation as to what a shit stain Hall is, 2007, MySpace was still a pretty
My God,
popular
MySpace.
social media platform,
Mhm.
and Hall's name was apparently listed as Captain 666 Howdy.
That is so fucking stupid.
Classy. And just like under his latest news category, he'd listed like stay away from Captain Howdy. And his interests included eating small children and harming small animals.
If he was trying to be funny, that's not funny.
Yeah, and his hobby was listed as consumption of human flesh. So just whoa. Okay, like he obviously was just,
Trying to be like shock and awe, maybe?
I don't know.
He was just trying to be dramatic and like, look
Yeah.
at me, look at how crazy I am.
And so
Oh,
thankfully
you're
he ended up just pleading guilty, so it saved the trial and whatever. But Kelsey's family gave, victim impact statements, and Hall actually openly cried and apologized to her loved ones. He did show a lot of emotion and remorse. And his defense attorneys, or attorney, I'm not sure, but they attempted to kind of paint Hall as a victim due to the rough start to his childhood, to, I'm sure, hopefully get like a decreased sentence. But Kelsey's mom, Missy, gave the following statement. She said, "I know what it's like to grow up with alcoholic parents. I know what it's like to grow up in an abusive home. I know what it's like to grow up in a single parent household that's so poor you receive public assistance and go without electricity. I know what it's like to be molested as a child. I know what it's like to be a victim of rape. And I know what it's like to be a teen mother. But I also know that life is about choices. When does one have to take responsibility for their own life?" And a fucking breed,
Wow.
Missy.
Wow.
Right?
Ooh, that just
I
gave me
know.
goosebumps.
I know. So his childhood was absolutely not an excuse for what he did to
He
Kelsey,
he made
that
choices.
14-year-old girl, and the other people that he hurt, and the other people that he would have continued to hurt, because he was escalating for sure. And he was obviously trolling that day. I don't have a doubt that he would have done it again. So on September 16th of 2008, Hall was sentenced by a judge because, again, he pled
He
guilty, so
pleaded
there wasn't a
guilty.
trial. So he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, which was a huge relief because, again, he would have absolutely continued hurting
Oh, yeah.
people.
He wouldn't have
So
stopped.
he's right where he needs to be. So Kelsey's family obviously suffered a tremendous loss when she was taken from them, and they really wanted to do right by her and move forward and help make positive changes to protect other people. And I love this about these stories, when there's something positive that comes out of these cases.
Mhm.
So they created the Kelsey Smith Foundation in her honor. And if you want more information about the foundation, you can go to kelseysarmy.org. And her name is Kelsey. So it's kelseysarmy.org. Their mission statement of the foundation is to honor and perpetuate the life of Kelsey Smith by empowering families, friends, and communities to proactively protect one of its most precious resources, namely its youth and young adults. So they try to educate young adults on how to avoid becoming victims of crimes, like how to always be aware of your surroundings. Like we've said, keep your head on a swivel, pay extra attention when walking to your vehicle to make sure someone isn't following you or approaching you. Basically, they just want to provide like tips and tools to create habits that could, hopefully stop crimes before they can happen and save lives. And so Blaine said that she remembered Kelsey's dad, Greg, speaking at assemblies at their high school,
Wow.
that he would give information on how to protect themselves. And Kelsey's parents teach safety awareness seminars, and they actually started like a safety whistle program, which gives what I would call a rape whistle, like a,
Yeah.
a safety whistle,
Yeah.
to the high school girls who attend these safety seminars,
That's cool.
which is really cool. And so Blaine said that she remembered seeing her dad in assemblies and getting the rape whistle and like learning tips how to protect themselves. So it's like her dad Greg and her mom Missy really just wanted to try and protect other daughters,
And
I
they're doing
think,
that
and
all
other
in the
people.
name and honor of their daughter, Kelsey, and that's gotta make them feel so good that her legacy is living on through their actions in this foundation.
Yeah,
Love that.
and on even like a bigger scale, they worked to pass the Kelsey Smith Act in Kansas and other states, which basically requires like cell phone companies, providers, to hand over location information for someone if they've been determined by law enforcement to be, if they're at risk of death or physical harm due to being kidnapped or missing.
I love it.
So that fucking around period where they could actually locate someone and save them. It kind of cuts out that bullshit and that red tape. And so this act or acts with similar legislation have kind of been proposed in other states, and they've been passed in 30 states in the
Really?
US. Yeah, all over the fucking US, which is amazing.
Okay, we only got 20 more
And
to go.
yeah, and I think there's even a possibility of it being passed nationally. Like it's been
That's
presented
great.
to Congress, and so hopefully at some point it'll be just like a national law that in those situations cell phone providers have to turn over that information
Yeah.
to try and save lives. I know that some people don't like these laws because they feel like it's an invasion of privacy, but look, if an abducted person can be found safely, or a murder or a sexual assault can be prevented, I am all fucking about it.
Yeah.
Her parents just want to do right in her memory and protect other kids. So that is the very horrific, scary case of Kelsey Smith. And I just want to again give a huge thank you to Blaine for suggesting this case and providing additional information that we would have
Mhm.
never found in a newspaper, and for supporting Crime Will Tell.
Yeah. Thank you, Blaine.
Yeah. And if you, whoever's listening, want to support the podcast, please follow or subscribe to the show so you don't miss any episodes. Bam. Then you don't have to go in and like you just won't miss an episode as they release. That's fucking
They'll come
sweet.
to you.
You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave a positive rating or review, and the key is just sharing the podcast with other true crime fans. So thank you for listening. And with that, goodbye, Carrie.
Goodbye, Jamie.
I'm stupid.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
For reals, are my claps invisible? I can hear it.
Right up the ass.
Ah, okay.
Oh my goodness, you got a frog in your throat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your applause is intense.
Choose wisely.
That'll help me say things right.